Luke Skywalker is the hero of the original Star Wars trilogy, and for most of Star Wars history, he has been considered the main character of the story. Interestingly though, characters like Anakin, Palpatine, Yoda, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan have a much bigger part in the whole story of Star Wars. But Luke is integral to the Star Wars story in many respects. He is the character who ties the whole story together. In this video, we are going to look at Luke's story from being born at the rise of the Empire to defeating the Empire to dying alone on a rock. This is Blarney on the Telly. Please like and subscribe for similar movie and TV content. Luke Skywalker was born in secret along with his sister Leia. Luke Skywalker's birth coincided with the birth of the First Galactic Empire. As the galaxy was shifted into the darkness of the Sith, the Force balanced itself by adding a strong light side presence in the form of Luke and Leia. Luke came from a lineage of royalty and from a very dark time, but his past was hidden from him. Luke's mother was the politician and former Queen Padme Amidala, and his father was a Jedi Knight known as Anakin Skywalker. After his secret birth, Luke was separated from his sister and hidden with his step-aunt and uncle. The Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi hid close to the family to watch over Luke as he grew up. And this is where the original Star Wars movie begins. Luke's step-aunt and uncle were galactic farmers and they raised Luke as a farm boy. Luke never had any knowledge of his history or his family. Although he was skilled, he resented being a farm boy and he always dreamed that there was something bigger out there for him. One day, his family purchased 2 droids to work on their farm. These droids were called C-3PO and R2-D2. When Luke was fixing R2-D2, he accidentally played a message from a princess called Leia Organa.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Leia had been captured by the Empire and she was requesting help from someone called Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke did not know anyone by that name, but there was a strange old man called Ben Kenobi that lived on the planet. Luke brought the droid to this man named Ben and played the message to him. Ben remarked that his name used to be Obi-Wan during a better time. He told Luke that he was once a Jedi Knight, and he showed Luke a lightsaber and told him about the powerful unseen force that binded the universe together. He told Luke that a Jedi Knight can learn to harness the Force and to use a lightsaber as a weapon. He then told Luke that there is a light side and a dark side to the Force. The light side results in all things good and it can be used to bring peace, while the dark side is dangerous and can bring evil. He explained that the dark side is a quicker, easier and more seductive route in the Force, but it requires you to give into fear and anger and almost always results in your destruction. Old Ben told Luke that he knew his father Anakin Skywalker. He said that they fought alongside each other in the Clone Wars and Anakin was a great warrior and a good friend. Ben told Luke that his father Anakin had been betrayed and killed by Ben's apprentice called Darth Vader. Ben then asked Luke to come with him to rescue the princess. Luke was excited by the thought of this adventure, but he had too many chores and he said he couldn't go on some mad quest. In all honesty, Luke doubted Ben's sanity. Luke returned home to his aunt and uncle's house, but when he got there, he was horrified to find the house on fire and his family had been burned to death. The Empire knew that Princess Leia had sent a message in the droids. They had come looking for the droids and they found Luke's family. Luke now had nowhere to go. He returned to Ben and asked Ben to train him. Ben and Luke then began their quest, bringing the 2 droids C-3PO and R2-D2 with them. Along the way, they met 2 galactic smugglers called Han Solo and Chewbacca, who had a ship called the Millennium Falcon. They joined Luke, Ben, R2-D2 and C-3PO on their quest. Ben trains Luke while they are making their way to the place where Leia is situated. To their horror, they eventually discover that Leia is being held on a giant battle station called the Death Star. This battle station is able to destroy a planet with one single blow, and it has just destroyed Leia's home planet. They eventually find the Princess Leia on the Empire's Death Star and rescue her. While escaping the Death Star, Luke witnesses his master Ben being confronted by a figure in dark clothing. This is the man that killed Luke's father, and his name is Darth Vader. Ben and Vader fight, and as Luke is escaping, Ben sees him. Ben then submits to Vader and says, "Strike me down and I will become more powerful powerful than you can possibly imagine. Vader swings his lightsaber and kills his former master Ben Kenobi. Luke screams when he sees Ben die, but he realizes that Ben sacrificed himself so he could escape. Luke escapes the Death Star with his new friends. They then join the Rebel Alliance and realize that the Empire's weapon, the Death Star, is about to destroy another planet. The Rebels have identified a weak spot on the Death Star that, if targeted correctly, will destroy it. Luke, although very inexperienced, gets in a ship and sets off with the other rebels to fight the Death Star. The rebels engage the Death Star and many are killed. Then the evil Darth Vader flies out in his ship and begins killing many more of the rebels. All the rebels that were supposed to make the shot to destroy the Death Star have been killed by Vader, and it looks like all hope is lost. Then Luke decides to make an attempt to destroy the Death Star himself. He begins his attempt to run towards the vent that he needs to hit. Darth Vader latches on to him and begins firing. Luke sets his targeting system but can't get a good aim. Vader continues firing and Luke is coming close to being destroyed. Then everything goes silent. Luke hears Ben's voice speaking to him from the Force. Ben says, "Use the Force, Luke." Vader feels the Force in the ship in front of him and remarks, "The Force is strong with this one." Luke turns off his targeting system. He becomes silent and calm and channels the Force, and he takes the shot. The missiles shoot down the vent on the Death Star and they blow it up. Everyone celebrates and Luke becomes a hero in the rebellion. Soon after, Luke travels to the rebel base on a nice planet. On that planet, he is visited by the ghost of Ben, who tells Luke that he must seek out Yoda, the Jedi who trained him. Luke travels to the Dagobah system in search of a great warrior called Yoda. But when he lands on this planet, he crashes his ship in a swamp. It is cold, it is dark, he is alone, he is trapped there and he starts to feel hopeless. Then this little weird looking, clumsy green creature appears and starts irritating him and taking his food. Luke tells the little green creature to leave him alone, but the little green creature persists and asks Luke what he's doing there. Luke tells the green creature that he is looking for a great warrior. The creature remarks that wars don't make one great, a nugget of wisdom that goes over the head of the irritated Luke. The little green creature then says to Luke that he knows where this person called Yoda is. So Luke follows the little green creature back to his house, and he really doubts the sanity of the little green creature, and he really doubts that a little green creature like this could know a great Jedi like Yoda. The little green creature makes Luke some food, but Luke just gets gradually more and more irritated. His master has died. He's trapped on a planet. He doesn't know what he should be doing, and this little green creature keeps bothering him, and he has given Luke some disgusting food. Luke completely loses patience. He throws down his food and jumps to his feet, ready to leave. Just as he is leaving, he hears the little green creature talking to the ghost of Ben.
"I cannot teach him. The boy has no patience."
"You will learn patience."
The little green creature is telling Ben that the boy has no patience and he cannot train him. Luke suddenly comes to the realization that this little weird-looking, clumsy green creature is the great Yoda that he's been seeking. Luke scampers to apologize to Yoda, and Yoda then tells Luke that he has watched him a long time. He has seen him focused on the future, but never with his mind on what he is doing now. Luke begs Yoda to train him, and Yoda eventually agrees. Yoda tells Luke all about the Force and how it is in everything and binds every living thing together. He tells Luke about the light and the dark side of the Force. He tells Luke about Darth Vader and how he works for an evil emperor of the galaxy. Luke fails many times during his training, but he witnesses the incredible power of Yoda, and Luke grows more and more powerful. But then, while Force meditating, he hears his friends calling out in pain. Luke realizes that his friends have been captured and he must save them. Yoda tells Luke that this is a trap set up to draw him out and he must complete his training or he will be killed by Vader and the Emperor. Luke decides to go despite Yoda's warnings. As Luke leaves, Ben appears to Yoda and says, "That boy is our last hope." And Yoda responds by saying, "No, there is another." Luke travels to the Cloud City to save his friends, and there he is confronted by Darth Vader.
"The Force is with you, young Skywalker."
But you are not a Jedi yet.
Vader battles Luke, and although Luke fights well, he is no match for Vader. Vader eventually defeats Luke by cutting his hand off. Luke climbs out on a ledge and tries to stay away from Vader. Vader then begins to talk to Luke. He says to Luke that Ben never told him what happened to his father. Luke screams back, "He told me enough. He told me that you killed him." Vader says to Luke, "No, I am your father," which is probably the most epic mic drop line and twist in a movie ever. It must have been amazing seeing this piece play out on screen back when this movie came out. This, by the way, is a time when Star Wars subverted expectations in a way that actually added to the excitement of a movie and made the movie even more magical. First of all, we had the reveal of Yoda, who we expected to see some great warrior, and then it turned out that this irritating little green creature was actually the great warrior. Then the reveal that there is another hope for the light side that just came from Yoda, and now there's this reveal of Vader as Luke's father. I mean, this is true subversion of expectations in an exciting way. Anyway, back to the story. Luke is overcome with emotion, and as he cries that this is impossible, Vader pleads with Luke to join him. He tells him that together they can defeat his master, the Emperor, and rule the galaxy together as father and son. Luke can't take it anymore, and he lets himself drop from the bridge he is on and falls seemingly to his death. Luckily, he manages to fall quite well, and he ends up hanging in the sky, holding onto a bar with one hand missing. He's upset and distraught. He feels like everything has fallen apart. He calls out to Ben for help, but there is no word from Ben. He calls out to Yoda, but there's no help from Yoda. He cries in agony, but then he remembers his training. He quiets his mind and he reaches into the Force. And then the answer comes to him. He calls out, "Leia, hear me." Leia is on a ship with Han Solo escaping the Empire and the Cloud City when she feels Luke's voice calling to her. She tells Han that she knows where Luke is. They fly to Luke's location and find him there. At this point, Luke is still so confused. He lies in a bed while his hand is replaced by a mechanical hand. He is almost delirious, wondering why Ben and Yoda lied about his father. Then he hears Vader's voice calling to him through the Force, "Son, join me." Luke accepts that Vader is his father, but he does not communicate with him through the Force. He stays with the light and continues his training with Yoda until Yoda has nothing further to teach him. He asks Yoda and Ben why they lied about his father. They tell him that they did not feel he was strong enough mentally to take the pain of this discovery and the pain of realizing his history and where he came from. Ben tells Luke that when Anakin turned to the dark side and became Darth Vader, the good person that his father used to be was gone. So the story he told Luke about his father being killed by Vader was true from a certain point of view. Yoda passes away into the Force, but before he passes, he tells Luke that he has nothing further to train him, and he tells him that there is another Skywalker. Luke instantly realizes that this other Skywalker is his sister Leia, and when he tells Leia, she knows too. They both always felt it through the Force. Luke now realizes that he must face Vader and the Emperor one last time and defeat them both using the light of the Force. Luke flies to a planet where Vader is situated and he surrenders himself. He is brought before Vader, who now displays a much calmer, more peaceful demeanour. Luke and Vader talk, and Luke tries to reach the good in his father, but his father tells him it is too late for him and he must obey his master. He then brings Luke before his Emperor, who is seated on his throne in the Death Star. The Emperor plans to get Luke to submit to the dark side and kill his father. Then he wants Luke to take his father's place as his new apprentice. At the same time, the rebels begin their attack on the Death Star. The Emperor reveals to Luke that this was his plan all along. He tells Luke that the Death Star is fully constructed and fully operational, and he will bear witness to the final defeat of the rebels and the death of his friends. The Emperor can feel Luke's anger. Luke momentarily gives into the darkness and attempts to kill the Emperor. The Emperor loudly cackles with delight as Darth Vader prevents Luke from striking the Emperor. The Emperor is delighted because he believes no matter the result of this battle, he will be victorious. If Vader wins, then the final hope for the galaxy will have been defeated. If Luke wins, then he will push him to give into the darkness by killing his father, and he will take his father's place as the Emperor's new apprentice. This is a test to see who is the most powerful between Luke and Vader, and who is the best choice or the Emperor's apprentice. The Emperor has put Vader through many tests like this in the past, and Vader has always been victorious. But this time it is different. Luke matches Vader, but then he refuses to fight his father. Vader feels Luke through the Force, and he senses a fear in him. He senses that Luke has a sister, and Vader realizes that he has a daughter. Vader then realizes that maybe Luke can't be turned to the dark side, but his sister can. Luke's lightsaber explodes in anger once he hears this, and he attacks Vader. Luke uses all of his anger on Vader and chops Vader's hand off. Vader lies on the ground, beaten, with Luke standing over him. The Emperor tells Luke, good. He tells him to strike down his father and take his place by the Emperor's side. The Emperor can feel the darkness growing in Luke, but then Luke realizes that this is the path that his father took before he became Darth Vader. The Emperor can feel the light overcome the darkness in Luke. Luke throws his weapon to one side and tells the Emperor that he will never join him. The anger engulfs the Emperor.
So be it, Jedi.
He shoots lightning from his hands. He slowly begins killing Luke. Luke uses the light in him to reach his father. His father looks at Luke, and then he looks at the Emperor. The darkness of Darth Vader is overcome by the light of Anakin Skywalker. Vader grabs the Emperor and lifts him over to a bridge. The Emperor is still so engulfed by the darkness, he struggles to regain control of himself. He shoots lightning back into Vader to kill him. Vader throws the Emperor off the bridge, but the Emperor has already dealt a deadly blow to Vader. Luke carries Vader to try and get him off the Death Star before it is destroyed, but Vader tells Luke to stop. He tells him it is too late for him, he will die. He asks Luke to remove his mask so he can look at Luke with his own eyes. He tells Luke that he was right about him, that there was still good in him, and he tells Luke to tell his sister that he was right about him.
You were right about me. Tell your sister you were right.
Then Vader dies peacefully in Luke's arms and returns to the Force. Luke escapes the Death Star just before it is destroyed. The Empire has been defeated, and as the galaxy celebrates, Luke has a funeral by himself for his father. This is the end of the original trilogy movies. After this, we cross into the, let's admit it, far more dodgy Disney movies where they kind of ruin Luke's character. Luke ended up training Leia, and she became an equally powerful Force user. So that was really cool, and I'm happy that Disney showed that side of things. And then Luke started a new Jedi Academy and began training Jedi there, so that was quite cool too. And Leia had a son called Ben, and Luke started training him as well, which that was great too. But then Luke became fearful of Ben and tried to kill him in his sleep because he could sense the darkness in Ben. But for Luke to try and kill him in his sleep, that's completely against Luke's character, and that really didn't make sense. And then Ben, after this, turned bad because he lost faith in Luke, and after this failure, Luke went into hiding until he was discovered by Rey, which again, Luke going into hiding like this, very out of character. And then at this point, Luke had completely given up on himself and the Force, and he completely cut himself off from the Force, which also went against his character completely. Luke did kind of train Rey a bit, but wasn't really much of a mentor to her, and he did manage to project his image across space at one point to give Rey a chance to escape from the First Order. And in this situation, Luke used one huge last gasp of power, which I guess was kind of cool. But then he just dies alone on a rock because of all the energy he expended during that feat, which was just a very depressing ending for such an iconic character. And look, I know sometimes it can be good to subvert what we expect from a character, but this was just ridiculous in my opinion. The original Star Wars movies subverted expectations so well, but these films just did it so terribly. Luke's character had a natural arc, which should have been something similar to Yoda's, where at the end of his life, he was a wise and powerful Force user that was just even too wise to use the Force for anything but teaching. And a death from old age like Yoda's would have made way more sense, where he just passed peacefully into the Force. But look, Disney thought they knew better. than all of us. They thought the average people didn't enjoy natural story arcs and they wanted something subverted. And you know what? It just really felt like Disney weren't really fans of the actual Star Wars original movies. Anyway, check out the video on screen to see why all of those Disney Star Wars movies were so crap.